Welcome to the second half of Chapter 6. This is a video for WriteLatin.org using the Lingua Latina per se illustrata curriculum, and today we are going to master Latin place constructions. So first we're going to do an overview of case functions, then we're going to learn the standard rule using these three prepositions, ad in ab, and then we're going to learn plurals. Then we have a massive exception for cities and towns, or municipalities, and also for these three weird words, get that same exception. Alrighty, so first of all, case functions. Now, what are case functions? Latin has not just cases, but a whole bunch of functions for each case. Each case can do multiple things, and so there are multiple functions. Like you see in blue, we've got genitive of the whole part of the treasure, but we also have genitive of possession, the bank's money. So there's many different things that a single case can do. In this video, we're going to just focus on three of these, namely place from which, place where, and place to which. And you can see that these three functions use the ablative, locative, and accusative cases respectively. From Phoenix, on the ground or in the countryside, and to Tucson, or toward Tucson. And the prepositions that we're going to be using are ab, in, and ad. Now I cross out in here because in is never used with the locative. So that's where you would expect in, but in reality, in and the locative don't go together. If in is ever used, it'll be used with the ablative, right where ab is. So that's why I got rid of in. Ab and ad are also going to be like sometimes not used, as you're going to see today, so that's why I fade these out. Here's another way you can think about it. These are the 5 cases of Latin, and you can see that these have functions, various functions jutting off of them. And each function is often oh, look, there's the vocative case right there. And anyways, each function is often translated with a particular preposition, like at, or from, or to. And so you can see there's a whole lot of these. But these three in the yellow are the ones we're going to learn today. Place to which, place where, and place from which. And you can see the standard translation is to or from, in English at least. But in Latin, it's ad, in, and ab. Really, you could say place where is half genitive, half ablative, and locative doesn't exist, because if there weren't place where, there wouldn't be locative. Notice in the center here that locative case is a marriage between ablative down low and genitive up high. And so some of the forms in the locative will come from the genitive, and some of them will come down from the ablative. So locative is kind of like not really a real case. It's kind of invented just for this one little function, place where. Locative is entirely dependent upon place where. It has no other function except that. So locative is kind of like a redundant, superfluous, extra human construct because it doesn't really have any existence beyond place where. So you could just think of it as place where, being half genitive, half ablative. Okay, and then here's the last way you can think of it. Here's the 5 cases with the locative down there. Okay, so here's your basic functions for each of the cases. Notice also down here in the pink that the ablative has 2 cases on the left here which signify like accompaniment and joining, and then 2 cases on the right here which signify separation or departure. Isn't that weird that the ablative could do 2 radically opposite things? Why is that? Well, the reason for that is because the ablative is the case of surrounding circumstances. It describes what was going on around the main action. So now the standard way to translate that is in the context of blank ablative word, blah, 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 something else happened in the sentence. So if that something else, blah, 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 word is a separative verb like departed, then obviously that ablative word, which you just translated as in the context of, has a sense of from. Like, in the context of my house, I departed. Well, it means from my house I departed. That's the way you understand it. Whereas if it were in the context of my house, I am eating, then suddenly it's the sense of at my house or in my house. So these ablatives over here on the left, personal agent, means, place where, time when, all these have the sense of together, whereas those two over there have the separate sense of separation. And that's going to make it a little bit troublesome today, because we're going to have two ablatives, and one of them is going to mean at, and the other is going to mean from, but they're going to sound exactly the same. You're just going to have to listen to the context, that one of them is going to be used with an understanding of at, whereas the other is going to be used with an understanding of from. And once again, in is never used with the locative, so that was just there because you would have expected that in would be there, because the locative replaces in, but never are they used together. And odd and ob are sometimes not used, depending which words you're dealing with, as we will see today. So let's keep going. And we see the same thing here if we put all those cases on the chart. You can see what happens. Down at the bottom, you can see place where, again, is mainly ablative, but some of those cases were genitive too, so it's not really just ablative, so I straddled it down into the locative. Again, you can see on the left are the ablative cases of separation, and on the far right are the ones of joining or accompaniment. Okay, so, but the ones that are flashing here are the ones we're going to use today. Place where, place from which, and place to which. And the prepositions that these are going to use are going to be odd, ob, and in. I'm going to push these two off to the side just so you'll recognize that odd is with the accusative. Once again, here's our three cases: odd plus the accusative, ob plus the ablative, or a locative. All right, let's get to it. The standard rule: odd, in, or ob. Okay, the standard rule is that you use those three prepositions, which mean from, at, or in, and to. And in can also mean not just at, not just in, but on as well. So you see in Latin, it can mean in or it can mean on if it's with an ablative. Now, if it's with an accusative, that's something different. You probably already learned that if it were with an accusative, it means into or onto, like passing through a barrier. But with an ablative, it just means in, like inside of, no passing through a barrier. Okay, so in can be translated in, on, or at. Those are the basic meanings. And so these two on the left are always used with the ablative, and this one on the right is always used with the accusative. And the functions of these are going to be place from which and place to which. Now, what about in plus the ablative? That's going to be called place where. So if anyone ever asks you, what's the function of in villa, you're going to say place where, right? But if they say, what's the function of ad tabernum, to the shop, you're going to say place to which. So slowly you need to learn these functions. If you memorize them, they will help you keep things straight, and they will also help you talk with linguists. So some people say you don't need to learn the functions. As long as you understand it, then that's good enough. And maybe it is good enough, I don't know. But depending on what you want to use Latin for, you might want to learn these functions, because these are technical phrases that all the linguists use. And if you go majoring in Latin in college, then you're going to need to know these. Alrighty, so ob is used with the ablative, odd is used with the accusative, for example. So ab mensa, from the table, ab muro, from the wall, or ad fenestram, to the window, ad ostium, to the door. And of course, in is also used with the ablative. In mensa, meaning on the table. Remember, that's your special meaning, not in the table, because that doesn't make sense. It's use the one that makes sense. On the table. And in the wall or on the wall, depending on what it is. Alrighty, so from the rivers to the houses or to the towns. horts. To the gardens, ad hortos. And of course, in is also available. In the rivers or on the rivers, down in your plurals. Okay, so now we're going to practice this. You see a wall, a garden, a door, a window, a table, and a sign. So here we're going to start our practice. So here you see 5 words: a wall, a garden, a sign, a door, a window, and a table. And we're going to move around this room, and you're going to have to describe the movement using the 2 cases you know, in each case with the proper preposition. So you're going to say ad murum, to the wall, and then ab muro, from the wall. And notice that I used the ablative ending o here with ab, but the accusative ending here with ad. What are the accusative and ablative cases of each of these words? So that's going to be the hard part about this. You're going to have to practice saying each one of these 5 words in both of those cases. So you might want to stop a second right now and think about, what are the accusative and ablative cases of each of these words? Now, if you forgot what those endings are, hopefully you already know them. But if you forgot, there they are. And we don't know third declension yet. And and o. And then in the plurals, as and os and es. And for the neuter plurals. So pay attention to these cases now, because you're going to use them. So here we go. What's this? So notice I use green for motion toward or place to which, and red for motion away from or place from which. So how would we do place to which regarding the wall? Ad murum, right? Okay. Now you do the next ones once, and I want you to remember or say out loud all your answers, and then the second time I'll do it giving the correct answers. So here we go. Okay, did that work? Let's see if you got it right. This is the way it goes. Ad murum, ab muro, ad fenestram, ab fenestra, ad signum, ab signo, ad mensam, ab mensa, ad hortum, ab horto, ad ostium, ab ostio, ad murum. Okay? Okay, so let's try it again. This time you're going to have to remember the names of the objects because I took them away. Do you remember the names of them? In case you forgot, that was a murus, a mensa, a fenestra, an ostium, a signum, and through the door, a hortus. All right, so let's try this. Okay, if you couldn't do it, then go back and look at my answers the previous time and then try it again until you can do it. All right, so this time we're going to do it not directions, but we're going to say in or on each one of these objects. So how are you going to do that? Well, you're going to use in plus the ablative. Really simple. So this should be easy for you. Okay, so in muro, in ostio, like on the door, in mensa, like on the table, in horto, like in the garden, in fenestra, in the window or on the window, and then in signo, on the sign. So see if you can do that yourself. Go. All right, so now we're going to combine those 2 things. So first you're going to say ad plus the accusative, then in plus the ablative, then ob plus the ablative. So the first one is accusative, and the last 2 are ablative. So after you say the first ablative, in plus the ablative, make a little mental note that you're going to use that ablative form again in a second. So hopefully you can get in the habit of doing it. So how would this go? So ad murum, in muro, and then ab muro is the way that's going to work. Okay? Try it yourself. Go. So here are the answers. Ad murum, in muro, ab muro ad fenestram, in fenestra, ab fenestra ad signum, in signo, ab signo ad mensam, in mensa, ab mensa ad hortum, in horto, ab horto ad ostium, in ostio, ab ostio ad murum again. Alrighty, so it's not that hard if you really hold on to the final vowel, because by holding on to it, you convey that it's in the circumstance of this thing. So saying in ostio gives you time to think about the in that came at the start of it, whereas ab ostio ad murum conveys motion. So try to say these in a distinctive way that is pungent and thick and pregnant with meaning. Yeah, that's the way to do a language. Awesome. Alrighty, plurals. So remember your plural endings, as, os, ah, and then in the ablatives, e's. Hopefully you remember these. So got some towns, some rivers, some villas, and some gardens. So first let's do place to which, and then place from which. Ad oppida, ab oppidis ad fluvios, ab fluviis ad villas, ab villis ad hortos, ab hortis ad oppida. Did you notice that I just used that ease sound every time something was being departed? That was so easy, wasn't it? Huh. You only have to really even think about the accusatives. That's the only thing you got to think about. All right, so this should be easy for you. Now you do it without the terms. Remember, oppida, fluvii, villi, and horti. Here we go. Okay, so how did that go? It went ad oppida, ob oppidis ad fluvios, ab fluviis ad villas, ab villis ad hortos, ab hortis ad oppida. Oh, nice. All right, now we're going to do the place where. In oppidis, in fluviis, in villis, in hortis. Any questions? It's about as easy as it gets, so you do it. That was easy. Now combine them together to do motion and location at the same time. Heracla, that was easy. All right, the big exception. All right, this is the big exception. For some words, you're going to use no preposition, no ad, no in, no ab. And instead of an ablative for place where, you're going to use a locative. Oh, dun, 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 dun. So what kinds of words are you going to make these two exceptions, these two changes for? Well, municipalities, in other words, cities or towns, and small islands, because they count as towns. Now, small islands are not any of these. Not Sardinia, not Corsica, not Sicily, not Crete, not Cyprus, and not Britain. Those islands count as whole provinces, and you don't use those. You only use tiny little islands that count as cities. So basically, you can think of it as just municipalities. And then you're also going to make these two exceptions for the three weird words: domus, house, humus, ground or humus, and rus, countryside. But we're going to start with municipalities. Okay, so here's this nice map. Do you know these towns? Milan, Venice. Castra just means a border fort. It's not really an actual place. Philippi, Athens, Corinth, Delphi, Brundisium, Pompeii, Syracuse. These are the big cities of this part of the world. So this time you're going to do like you did before, use place to which and place from which, but notice no odd and ob, and don't worry about lock. Okay, so we would say ad Romam, but we're not going to. We're just going to say Romam. So it's kind of like a little paraphrase lingo. It's not I'm going to Rome. No, it's just I'm going Rome or Romeward. So let's think a second about how we should think about this. See this word domus down here? What does that mean? It means house or home. So this is actually just like what we say in English, because you don't say I'm going to home, do you? What do we say in English? You just say I'm going home, right? You skip the to. There's no to. You just say I'm going home. So that's how you should think about all of these words. It's kind of like here for the word ground. Instead of saying he fell to the ground, it's as if someone said he fell ground. Now, doesn't that kind of make a little sense? Because, you know, when you're going home, it's kind of like this sense of impetuousness collapsing into home. Or same with the ground. When you fall to the ground, it's like you're impetuously crashing into the ground. Same with countryside. I'm going to the country? No, I'm going country. I'm going country, boy. Okay, so that's the same sense of these municipalities also. It's not like you're saying I'm going to Athens. I'm going Athens. Or it's not like saying I'm in Athens. It's saying I'm Athenating. Or it's not like saying I'm leaving Athens. It's like saying I'm Athens fleeing or something like that, although that one doesn't make as much sense. So try to think of these in the ways that you would use similar lingo in English, because that will help you understand the sense of it, and that will make you more communicative. So let's try these. Say Romam to Rome and Roma from Rome, and use no odd or ob. All right. Romam, Roma, Pompeios. Uh-oh, did you notice? We have a singular and a plural mixed in the same slide. Oh, you're going to have to be good to do this one. It may take you several tries to get through it all. Okay, so Romam, Roma, Pompeios. Pompeiis, Brundisium. Brundisio, Syracusas. Syracusis, Corinthum. Corinto, Atenas. Atenis, Philippos. Philippis, Delpos. Delpis, Castra. Castris, Venetiam. Venetia, Mediolanum. Mediolano, Romam. All right, so see if you can do it yourself. Here we go. All right, hope that worked for you. If it's not, try it again until you can get it really good, because it's going to get a little more confusing after this. because we're going to start using the locatives. How do you say in or at with municipalities? Do you say in? Nope. Do you just use the ablative? Nope. What do you do? Oh, you use this weird case, the locative. Huh. Now take a look at these forms here. You're used to these forms, but they're kind of weird that you're sticking some of these together. You wouldn't think that these would go together, right? Two of them are like the genitive. The rest are like the ablative. Even in the third and fourth declension and fifth declension, which you don't know yet. So you can see here, like you saw earlier on the slide earlier in the video, that place where is created by combining genitive and ablative. And when we do that, we call it the locative, even though it's just genitive and ablative. So it's kind of like you said, not I'm at Rome, but I'm of Rome, because Rome is one of these feminine singulars. Or Brundisium, it's kind of like you said, not like I'm at Brundisium, but I'm of Brundisium, but is understood as at, even though you're saying of. Isn't that kind of weird? I don't even know where the locative came from. Perhaps it was said in some strange, different way. They have locative cases in languages like Lithuanian, for instance. So, who knows? So, Romae, Brundisii, and Atenes are three examples. The first two are like genitive, and the last one is like ablative. So you're already used to using ablative for in. We're doing that previously with the normal words. But if you ever see an A or a US or a UM, then when you want to say in that place, you're going to have to use a genitive instead of your typical ablative. Sorry, I didn't create the language. It's not my fault. Alrighty. So let's put together all three place constructions for each one of these boxes. So regular words are on the left here now. Okay, so odd something is just Romum or Brundisium. At someplace is Romae or Brundisii. And then from someplace is Roma or Brundisio. And then you're used to the plurals. There, in the highlighted areas, are your new locative cases. Of course, in the top rows, you've got accusatives, and in the bottom rows, you've got ablatives. Okay. All right, so now you try it. Say it in Latin, this time using locatives for in or at. So before we start, just look for a second. Tell me what cities on this map you would use a locative with. Remember, you're looking for cities with what three possible endings? A, us, and right? So what cities are we going to have to use that special locative form for? Well, let's start from the top. These two up here, obviously, and Venetia. What about Castra? No, because that's what? That's a neuter plural. That's not a feminine singular, because that one's pink, whereas this one's gray. Okay, so these two at the top will get a locative. What else? Roma, of course, yeah. Anything else? Yeah. Brundisium. And is that it? Oh no, there's at the bottom Corinthus, right? By the way, when you say a Greek H, just don't even say it. Just aspirate it more. So it's Corinthus, not th, but t. All right, so those are the 5 cities that you're going to have to use that special locative form for. Okay, it's good to note that when you think about a city. Oh, this is a city I'm going to have to use a locative for, if anyone asks me to. All right, so now you try it. So here's how it goes. Romam, Romae, Roma, Pompeios, Pompeiis, Pompeiis, Brundisium, Brundisii, Brundisio, Syracusas, Syracusis, Syracusis, Corinthum, Corinthi, Corinto, Atenas, Atenis, Atenis, Philippos, Philippis, Philippis, Delphos, Delpis. Delpis castra. Castris. Castris Venetiam. Venetiae. Venetia Mediolanum. Mediolani. Mediolano Roma. Romae. Hopefully you could do that. Now you try it yourself. Okay, and then we're going to have to do the very same thing with Domus, Humus, and Rus. And these three words mean house or home, ground, and countryside. And just like we did with cities and towns, these have no in, od, or ob. And instead of an ablative for place where, they use a locative. So remember, these are your endings again. And examples are at home or at the homes. I have never seen that in the plural, but maybe you might have it. On the ground. And you haven't had third declension yet, but when you get it, this will be an ablative form, ruret, in the countryside. So that's kind of normal. So let's do all three directions with these three. So this is what it's going to look like. Humum, to the ground. Humi, on the ground. Humo, up from the ground. Domum, home. Domi, at home. And domo, from home. You'll often use these words with your common forms of here or there. Remember, at home, domi, would be used with hic. I am hic domi. Domum would be used with hook and iluk, because those three all mean motion toward. So I'm going iluk domum, to their home. Whereas domo is motion from, so that would use hink and ilink. So I am departing hink domo, away from here, from home. So yeah, hink, heek, hook, ilink, ilik, luke. I hope you remember those from your vocab lists. Alrighty, domos, domis, domis. But of course we don't have the plural, so I shouldn't have even done that. And then if you ever get third declension, Rus is neuter. So I'm going home as I'm going Rus. Alrighty, okay, so first humus. So say it in Latin with no od, in, or ob, and use a locative instead of an ablative. Bong. It fell humum. Now it is humi. So let's pick it up. Humo. Alright, you try it. Boom. It fell what? Humum. So now it is what? Humi. So pick it up. What? Humo. Very good. Okay, same here with here. Now we're going to use domus. So Papa is returning domum. Now Papa is domi. And tomorrow morning, Papa is going to depart domo. Very good. Okay, so that's the way it goes. See if you can do it. So Papa is returning what? Domum. Then now Papa is dining where? Domi. And tomorrow morning Papa is going to depart where? Domo. Very good. So now you are a master, hopefully, of all the Latin place constructions. Standard rules are ad in ab plus the accusative or ablatives. You did the plurals. First, you learned what case functions are. All these things. And all these things. And all these things. And then you learned the standard rule for using ad, in, or ab. Remember moving around the room, saying ad mensam, ab horto, and things like that. And then you learned the big exception, which is municipalities, where you don't even say the ad or ab, so that's easier. But instead of that, now instead of saying the ablative for the in one, you instead have to say the locative. So that was this, if you remember. And then lastly, you did the exact same thing using Domus, Humus, and Rus. So Domus and Humus are just like the city of Corinthus was. There's no difference whatsoever. Also, just so you know, this word domus is definitely the weirdest word in Latin. First, it is the only word that I know of that is a feminine second declension. You have not seen US-I in the color of pink ever. Second, when you learn the fourth declension in chapter 12, you're going to see that domus is sometimes written as a fourth declension. So it would be domus, domus. So now you haven't learned the fourth declension yet, but if you had known that, then you could have done it like this. Instead, we could have said domum, domu, with a long U, and then again domu. So you could have done it that way, and you'd be technically correct. But I've never seen anyone use the fourth declension endings for place to which, place where, and place from which. I've only ever seen the second declension set of endings. And then last of all, the weirdest thing is that it is this special word that doesn't get prepositions. So there's three weird oddities here with the word domus. So domus is like bizarre. I'm so sorry. So don't draw any conclusions about the second declension from this one little weird exception. All right, so now you're a master or mistress of Latin place constructions. Hopefully you'll be good to go for chapter 6 and the rest of the book in doing these things. Hope you enjoyed the video and see you in chapter 7. Walete!